After lunch, Arjun and I head to the beach where we park and get out to walk off our meals. Arjun tells me he has a conference call to make and that he will meet me at the Vista Del Mar Park a few blocks away in half an hour. But he leaves me with one task. Imagine you are a 7-year-old at Christmas dreaming without limits. What is something you want to achieve in the next 90 days? Seems so simple, but reducing all my hopes, dreams and wishes down to one single thing without instantly squashing the idea beneath my crushing self-doubt before it even fully forms is no easy feat. As he drives away, I'm grateful for the time alone to let his question and all those lessons marinate some. I'm going to need a lot of marinade and a long time to steep in it. Heat penetrates through to my bones as I walk basking in the warmth of the mid-afternoon sun, which I almost didn't feel had I taken my life. Conversational din and laughter from chattering tourists filters through the sunny air. Absorbing their sounds, I'm unable to place the accents of a few cutting across the street between pedestrians and speeding bikes. I waltz into the small park, a stretch of grassy area lined with large palm trees and a low metal fence facing the ocean. The same ocean I almost ended my life in this morning. Palms on smooth metal. Ouch, ouch, I forgot how hot metal in the sun gets. I quickly hoist myself onto the picnic table. The ocean breeze kicks up my hair. I taste the saltiness in the wind. Looking at the ocean, I feel its vastness and calm. Arjun's words filter into my mind. Imagine you are a 7-year-old at Christmas dreaming without limits. What is something you want to achieve in the next 90 days? What do I want? To win the Powerball? Move to Mars and get away from it all? Travel to the past and invest in Apple computer? Hey, Arjun did say to let my imagination soar as if I were a little girl. Well, let's see. Here's a biggie. I know I don't want to feel depressed and miserable anymore. I don't want to be broke and alone, either. I don't want to be a failure. As for what I do want, I know I want to be happy and successful. But how? I am so rock bottom right now, reaching that goal feels insurmountable. Speaking of bottom, my shorts are finally drying out from the heat on this picnic table as the sun warms my cheeks. I close my eyes. I wish that somehow, all the answers would magically soak into my brain. I don't know how long I'm sitting there when I hear a familiar voice and open my eyes to find Arjun a few feet away, with a wide smile. I have to say, I'm a little jealous of his happiness. Then again, if I were super rich like him, I'd have a smile on my face too. Still, something tells me that Arjun's peace doesn't all come from his financial stability. I want to know how he does it. Suddenly, I feel grateful and lucky and incredibly emotional all at the same time. A surge of tears rises into my eyes, and I blink them away. I don't know why you stopped me this morning. Why you're taking time from your busy schedule for me and my problems. But I'm glad you did. So, thank you. Arjun looks at me straight in the eyes. You are worth my time, Lindsay. I choke the tears back down as Arjun pats my shoulder. We sit in silence for a while, just staring out at the churning waves, listening to the soft whooshing wind through the palm fronds. Did you think about what you want to achieve in the next 3 months? He asks. I shrug, shaking my head. I know I want to get out of debt, but that's like $500,000. $500,000. Talk about the impossible. I'm getting lightheaded just thinking about it. But saying the actual amount hurts more than I realize. I have a huge hole to crawl out of, but for once, I don't feel so hopeless about it. I would love it if I could reduce my debt by $30,000 in the next 3 months. Of course, there's probably no way. I haven't even been able to come up with enough money to rent a tiny apartment. But Arjun told me to dream big, so that's what I'm doing. Lindsay, that is an excellent thought. However, if you focus on avoiding debt as your goal, that is what you are going to grow. How can you rearrange your words so that you're stating something you want to attract instead of something you want to avoid? Also, since your goal is financial, make sure you add how you are going to serve others by earning that. In a business or a career, money is the reward for adding extensive value. The more value you add to the marketplace, the more money you will make. Okay. I say, thinking it through. I want to earn $30,000 in the next 90 days by adding value to small business owners who are part of my social media network. I want to do this using the software development skills I have. I'll help them automate and scale up their business and make more money. Arjun nods. You articulated it very well. Thanks. Now, all I have to do is find $30,000 and start my climb up the Himalayas. I grin sheepishly. He chuckles. We will talk about money soon and how to attract true abundance into your life. But for now, take the notepad we bought. Arjun gives me a moment to retrieve my journal and pen from the shopping bag. I examine my cuticles and pick up the tiny grains of sand still lodged there. I muster the courage to continue. Arjun, I have to be honest. A big part of me still tells me I'm good for nothing. This voice has been the serial killer of my dreams for a while now. How do I fix that? Lindsay, first of all, I commend you for the trust you are placing in me. The good news is that the moment you found your compelling reasons, you have started the process of crushing your nagging inner voice. What you have is an inner conflict, he continues. Part of you thinks you need to succeed financially, while another part thinks you are good for nothing. Let us say one person wants to become wealthy, and she works hard every day to reach that goal. At the same time, part of her brain says if she becomes wealthy, she might lose her moral values and become a corrupt person. Do you think a person with inner conflict such as this can become wealthy? Probably not. You're looking at the poster child for inner conflicts. Why? I wanted to be wealthy and successful. I tried hard, but deep down, I think I feel guilty about having excess money. Maybe that's because all the rich people I know are crooks. As a kid, I hated Ebenezer Scrooge and mean, stingy rich people. So, I always told myself, if I ever get to be like them, I don't want to be a bad person and lose my identity. Whoa, hold on. Is it true that all rich people are crooks? He gives me a wide-eyed look. My brain comes to a halt and does an about-face. Well, not you, of course, Arjun. Oh, sure, insult me, then walk it back, why don't you? Arjun says with a wink. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. It's okay. I'm not offended, but I can personally attest to knowing hundreds of people who are wealthy and are the most truthful, trustworthy and giving people on this planet, and nothing like Ebenezer Scrooge. Remember, even old Scrooge had a change of heart. I know. I'm probably just jealous. There are good rich people and bad rich people, just like there are good and bad of any kind, Lindsay. My friend Warren Buffett put it quite well when he said, of the billionaires I have known, money brings out the basic traits in them. If they were jerks before they had money, they are simply jerks with $1 billion. Morons become rich morons, and kind people become kind rich people. Yes, I get it. I'm sorry for generalizing. My bad. It's okay. But the real question concerns me is your belief about rich people stopping you from becoming wealthy yourself? Arjun pauses, a question in his smile. Well, dang. What other negative assumptions have I made, I wonder? I open my journal. I feel like I'm in school again, and you're Mrs. Myers, my world history teacher, about to start her lecture. Was Mrs. Myers a good-looking older man with salt and pepper hair and an undeniable charisma? Arjun wiggles his eyebrows and gives me his good side. Actually, she was petite and blonde with big bosoms. Good for me. Arjun claps once with a satisfied smile and then continues. What are the 5 words that will describe you at your best? What words do you want others to use to describe you? It can be a word or a phrase. Think about that for a minute and let me know what you come up with, Arjun adds, hopping off the table and walking over to the seawall, leaning against it to gaze out at the sea. What are 5 words that describe me at my best? Passionate, for sure. What else? Kind, maybe. And grateful? I scribble down the first thoughts that come into my brain, writing and writing until my hand begins to ache. When I finish, I feel like my entire soul has purged itself on paper. Arjun knows I'm done, too. He strolls back and casually sits down on the picnic bench. I can tell you were passionate about what you were writing. What did you come up with? He asks gently. I wish my father would have spoken to me the way Arjun does, instead of in his stoic, judgmental manner. I am passionate, kind, loving, caring and grateful. Those are powerful words. Arjun bows his head. And, now, write down the 5 words you would never want to be associated with. These are words or phrases that you are disgusted by. You frantically hate the people with these characteristics. I think about this for a while as Arjun sits silently beside me. Finally, I place pen to paper and begin writing, slowly at first, then the ideas pour out. I am not lazy. I am not weak. I am not untrustworthy or a loser, or insincere, or selfish. I'm not like Scrooge, either. I read aloud. That is 7 already, you want more? I close my journal and drop my head into my hands, suddenly overwhelmed again. Let's work with those. Those are your negative identities or shadows. You believe that you are not weak, not untrustworthy, not insincere, and not selfish. But if you look closely, you will see that the focus of these words is on what you do not want. These are the areas you are resisting the most. What you resist the most persists as your shadows. For example, not selfish, you are giving energy to being something you don't desire to be. Investing energy into protecting yourself from being selfish. Similarly, you are protecting yourself from being untrustworthy. Shadows are the biggest waste of your mental energy. This resistance is the #1 cause of failure in life, career, and business. So how else am I supposed to think of 5 words that don't describe me? But isn't it a good thing that I'm protecting myself from being selfish? I'm confused on this one. I understand. But here, let me ask you another question. Why are you trying to be not selfish? So I can be selfless, I say. Isn't that the point? To be the opposite? But then, why don't you say selfless as one of your identity traits, rather than not selfish? Because you told me to think quickly off the top of my head. Fine, but if you were to say selfless as your identity word instead of selfish as your shadow, how would you feel differently? I might feel more excited about my identity as a giving person. I don't know if I'm on the right track, but again, I think my mind is opening up to new ideas. Is that what you mean? Exactly. What do you think would happen if the entire world chose being selfless as who they are? We'd have a perfect world, I reply with a laugh. That is not true, Lindsay. You will have a lazy and boring world. We can debate that later. But your selfishness is here to serve you, to inspire you to action. If a person doesn't have aspirations to motivate them, how will they progress? Unless and until you stop resisting your selfishness and start embracing it, you will not find your true freedom. Love yourself in spite of your vices. Now, let us look at your shadow identities. Find the one with the highest emotional intensity. Which would you avoid or resist the most? I would say being untrustworthy. I look out across the ocean, feeling a wave of melancholy sweep over me, in contrast to watching the rolling, sparkling blue waves glinting with joyful light. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, when I can't depend on someone. I went through a lot when I was younger, seeing my mom unable to depend on my dad, and I guess that affected me a lot. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, that would be what I call your prime shadow, the one that is limiting you the most. Once we integrate this shadow into your identity, you will immediately see the most amazing changes take place in your life. Your strength lies in your gift. Your true identity. Your massive opportunities lie in your weaknesses. Your shadows. Are you ready to tap into those massive opportunities now? I tear my gaze away from the ocean and focus on Arjun's patient smile. I am. That's good to hear, Lindsay. If you listed untrustworthiness as a shadow, it means trust was an important part of your original tribe. Your family. Perhaps you haven't received enough validation from those who are most important to you. This might be why you feel so strongly about untrustworthiness, because they might have told you were untrustworthy. Some people might have gone through trauma, hurt or abuse that redefined them, but as you didn't mention it. I'm guessing that wasn't the case for you? Unless you consider having my hair cut too short in 6th grade and everyone calling me Larry because I looked like a boy trauma, then no. That's debatable, Arjun says with a smile in his voice. But as I examine my childhood now as an adult, I realize that there were some tough times that really did define me as a person up until now. Seeing my mother do the work of two people deeply affected me. She was my mother and my father. Took on both roles since my father couldn't share in the hard responsibilities of raising a child. He was there for the fun, but never the true parenting. In many ways, it was this that had made me a strong woman, back when I was one, at least. Arjun stares at me. Where did you go, Lindsay? Just thinking about why I have a strong association with that word. I don't feel comfortable telling him the rest. Arjun may be a great coach and a wonderful man, but he isn't my shrink. So, you're saying I feel inadequate as a trustworthy person. And that's why I assumed this as a shadow rather than my identity? Precisely. Your mind believes you haven't done things to show trustworthiness. Your mind attaches trustworthiness onto you as a shadow because it is too important for you. You may have done 1,000 things to show that you are trustworthy, but your mind chooses to disregard them. So what can you do to fix that? Go shadow boxing and use some big gloves to eliminate that shadow, I laugh. Or just take the darn thing and shove it down the incinerator. He chuckles but shakes his head. You know, I don't believe in eliminating anything. I want to integrate that shadow to be a coherent part of you. I had a feeling you wouldn't make it easy. Exactly. Arjun stands and leans back against the railing, crossing his legs in front of him. According to Dr. Daniel Siegel, integration is a central organizing principle for how the human mind develops across your lifespan. Integration creates a rhythm in which energy and information are free to flow across your entire self, helping you to be childlike again. I believe integration is the pinnacle of emotional and social intelligence. How do you remember all this stuff? Lindsay, you seem distracted. Yeah, well, I have good reason to be a little distracted today, but I'm trying. Come on, hit me with intelligence stuff again. I cup my ears with my hands. I promise to listen better. He sighs and glances at his watch. I have to remember that I'm not paying him for any of these lessons, and he's a busy man. Though I fully intend to pay him back one day. Arjun continues, tell me 3 instances where you displayed incredible trust to someone or something. Okay, it's time to pull up my big girl panties, even if they are still full of sand. I can do this. I take a deep breath and let it out slowly. With Charlie, my ex-fiancé, I never gave him reason to doubt me. I never cheated or betrayed him. He was the center of my world, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt all the time. Arjun seems to contemplate me a minute before continuing. Excellent. Share another experience where you were completely trustworthy, possibly from your childhood. My parents could trust me from the time I was young. I didn't lie to them, even if the truth might get me in trouble. That was good of you, Lindsay. Now, please share one final one from your business life. Alright. Here's the thing. I was always as 100% trustworthy to my business partners, even when I was bleeding money. I have never taken a single penny that didn't belong to me. I may not have been the best businesswoman, but I was extremely trustworthy to my clients. Arjun nods approvingly. Do you see how, even after all these examples of your trustworthiness, you wrote it a negative? I am not untrustworthy, I am trustworthy. Yeah? Why is that? I guess we always see ourselves in a more critical light, Yes, but it is also because you haven't allowed this characteristic to be part of you. All these years, you have been trying to avoid being untrustworthy, but not necessarily be trustworthy. Does that make sense? Sort of. Why am I doing that? Quote. Because your entire relationship network is built on the foundation of the relationship you had with your primary influencers, whether it be your father, mother, or another role model. In your mind, your inner child does not want to be rejected by these figures, even though you are 40 years old. So you either imitate your parents or you become the opposite. But you are not a child anymore. You can own yourself and integrate the trustworthy part of yourself. I'm all for it, Arjun. Let's integrate away. Where do we start? Very well. Take the first example of your trustworthiness and in your imagination bring it closer, bigger and more colorful. What does that mean? It means magnify the experience by really listening to what you heard, really visualizing what you saw, and feeling what you felt. Bring the experience closer and closer to you. Bring it 1 inch away from your nose. Then, step into this experience. Red linoleum tiles shine as a woman leans down on her mop. Her daily apron is tied around her back, and her brown hair is pulled up in a knot. My mom. The worry lines in her face smooth away and she smiles as I set the car keys on the table, 5 minutes before curfew. It had taken a lot for her to let me go alone that night. Especially since I had just gotten my license, but her trust in me had proven to be merited. She could count on me to honor my commitments. After the first experience, Arjun asks me to do the same for the other two, and I do, really. Visualizing and stepping into those memories. The one with Charlie is particularly difficult because he dumped me even after I was completely devoted to him. And bailed him out many times over. Still, I do it, and I feel stronger because of it. What do you feel now, Lindsay? I hear Arjun's voice cutting through the ocean breezes. It was easier than I thought. I am starting to feel that I am trustworthy. I usually overlook this about myself, but I have to say, I've been a model daughter, boss, and girlfriend in this respect. I really have. I never associated these experiences as part of me being trustworthy. When I deeply connected with those just now, I saw myself in the mirror of trustworthiness. Excellent. Your identity is just a collection of your most cherished memories. When you deeply recollected the memories that demonstrated your trustworthiness, you felt it as your new identity. It will wear off sooner than you think. That is why you need to install this new identity into your psyche permanently. How? 40 years of thinking a certain way is not easy to change, but I suppose that's why I'm here with Arjun. To try and rewire my brain. By religiously practicing the remembering exercise for 3 minutes for the next 90 days. Showing your brain that you are a heck of a trustworthy person until it becomes ingrained in you. Do it as soon as you wake up and right before going to sleep. So, let's see. All I need to do is remember the 3 instances I was trustworthy and experience it as if it is happening then. And there. That is a same. Can. Lot of imagining to do. I laugh, a low, sardonic chuckle. You do it, Lindsay. It's all about conditioning your mind. You can do the same for all of your shadows, and you will be a better version of yourself starting today. Once you build your empowering identity, you will automatically align yourself to true north. Your identity defines your destiny. Even criminals and sociopaths act in a way that is consistent with who they believe they are. One of the strongest forces in human psychology is to be consistent with their definition about themselves. Their identity. That makes complete sense. Time to build a solid identity. When I was young, I did not have a great role model for business in my community. I admired Peter Drucker a lot as a great business strategist. So early on in my business career, I built this identity for myself. I am the Peter Drucker of business strategies. Hey, I like that. And then I went back and asked myself, what are 5 words that define Peter Drucker? What is the prime question that Peter Drucker would ask on a consistent basis? What values does Peter Drucker have? What beliefs would Peter Drucker have about business? What state of mind would he live in most of the time? That's some serious idolizing, Arjun. It was, and in less than an hour, I had built a new identity. Dang. Dang is right. So, what have I learned here? Like, if you could roll it all into a little ball and present it to me. You've learned that the goal is not for you to become Peter Drucker, but to become the best version of yourself. You can start building upon yourself, spending years and years working on the next version of yourself. Or, you can re-engineer what successful people in your industry have done and build that in less than 1 hour by modeling them. Which one do you prefer? I'm all for less work, Arjun. Remember the 20-80 rule. 20% of the effort creates 80% of the results. He laughs. Precisely. That is your opportunity today. But remember that for your new identity to stick, you need to spend time daily declaring your new identity. Tell me, who could be a great role model for you in business? Billionaire entrepreneur and founder of body shapewear company, Spanx, Sarah Blakely. I am the Sarah Blakely of technology, I exclaim. Not only is she an amazing businesswoman, but on a personal level, Her product has saved me from a tragic case of muffin top more than once. Yes, okay, good. And what are the 5 words that describe the one and only Sara Blakely of technology? Passionate, adventurous, creative, successful, and trustworthy. I don't hesitate a bit. I admire this woman like no other, except my mother. Perfect. These are the words that now describe who you are. Your new version of yourself. Notice you said trustworthy? He winks at me. Now, let me ask you the magic question that will help. You discover your rule for stepping into this new identity. What should happen for the Sara Blakely of technology to feel successful? If she gives her best to her customers, then she knows she is successful. If she gives more value than she receives, she'll be able to acquire massive wealth. And I'm pretty sure she wears clothes that don't have seaweed and barnacles stick to them, I add with a smile. Okay, Lindsay, let's take this all the way home. Later tonight, sit down and ask yourself the same question for all the words that describe the Sara Blakely of technology's identity. What should happen for the Sara Blakely of technology to feel blank? Okay. Roger that, Captain. He playfully swats my arm. Lindsay, you have much humor, passion, and intelligence to offer the world. I can feel my eyes getting watery again and I clear my throat. I'm glad you found me, too. Thanks for believing in me. Now, time for shopping. He announces, glancing back in the direction of the shops. You've been too kind already. It's no problem. Really, I've gotten used to smelling like a mermaid. And it's no problem for me to help you. Besides, my sister tells me there's nothing like some new clothes to make you feel a fresh start. He laughs heartily, that laugh I envy. Smart sister. After another winding ride through the posh LA streets, Arjun finally brings the Ferrari to a halt in front of a beautiful, modern building. A J.C. Penney. I ask, knowing it's anything but Barney's of New York. He smiles back, putting the car in park and pulling up the emergency brake. He may as well have said, you can't afford it, land, for that matter. I've heard of the famed Barney's, but my wallet had never granted me access before. Arjun reaches into his pocket and retrieves his wallet, pulling out a handful of $100 bills. Buy what you need. I flush with embarrassment at the wad of cash in my hands. On one hand, I'm too full of pride to take it. On the other, well, he's handing me a bunch of Benjamin Franklin's. He always was my favorite, almost president. I've never felt so pathetic but special at the same time. This man has managed to care enough for a lifetime in just a single day. Go buy yourself the basics, and I will come back and meet you here, out front in 2 hours, okay? Arjun, if you want me to buy basics, Target or Old Navy will suffice. I just don't feel right taking. Lindsay, stop. He takes my hands and shakes them lightly. This is all part of your education. The first step to wealth is to get out of a scarcity mindset. You understand? I nod reluctantly and slink out of the car. He flashes me one last smile before I shut the car door. The little Ferrari drives off down the street. And I'm left standing in front of the store with my new friend Benjamin Franklin. Here goes nothing. Pushing through the large glass doors with beautifully polished brass handles, my breath catches in my throat. So this is how the other half lives. Everything sparkles and smells of big money, but I tell myself to hold my chin up. A few older sales ladies smile at me with slightly raised eyebrows, a la Pretty Woman, but they say nothing. They're no different from you, Lindsay. That's for sure. But it's a hard sell, even to myself, as I feel the grit of sand between my toes. Walking through the store, I catch my reflection in about 10 different mirrors. Besides looking like a sea hag and my hair needing color and a trim, the most noticeable thing about me is my posture. My shoulders sag like a deflated Macy's Day Parade balloon. That's been the hardest part of all this, dealing with being let down. But did life let me down, or did I do that all on my own? If the latter, I need to forgive myself. Today is a new chance to change all that. I mean, it's not every day someone hands you Ben Franklin's to go shopping with. So suck it up, Lindsay. Straighten those shoulders and find something in this store that makes you smile. Retail therapy at its best. A 4-pack of Benjamins and 90 minutes later, I stroll through the glass doors into the bright sunshine, maybe not a new woman, but at least a better smelling one. I spot Arjun sitting in his car by the curb, eyes closed, smiling at the sun. God, I envy his ability to disconnect and enjoy simple pleasures like that. The shopping bags rustle against my legs as I jog over to his car. A few sharply dressed pedestrians glance at me as they walk by, as though I don't fit in. But I don't give a rat's ass anymore. He looks at me inquisitively. Looks like you found what you needed. Help, yeah? I've been wanting 5-carat diamond earrings my whole life. Thanks, Arjun. He raises an eyebrow at me but doesn't blink. Fine, I wish I'd gotten 5-carat diamond earrings, I say, climbing into the car. Instead, I just got some shirts and pants and undergarments. I was beyond reasonable and trustworthy. Thank you, I said sincerely as I hand him back the remaining cash. Arjun takes it with a smile. It's nice to see you smiling, Lindsay. Yes. Sure, it's just clothes, but for the first time in a long time, I feel more hopeful. Until I remember the diamond ring I had to give back to Charlie. If I had a voodoo doll of him, it would go right into the incinerator, and the disposal would actually work this time. He glances down at the shopping bags by my feet, and a concerned look comes over him. Do you have a place to stay? Well, since I decided against permanent residency in that under-the-ocean condo earlier today. I shake my head, refusing to make eye contact with him. Crashing on my friend Aaron's sofa had been home as of late, but I was staying with a friend. And how are those living arrangements going? I force a smile. Not well. I don't think I can go back. It was causing tension between her and her husband. Has she told you that? He asks, dark eyes full of concern. No, but I overheard them arguing about me last night. He made it pretty clear I'm not welcome. I'm sure that is one reason why you ended up on the beach today, Arjun said gently. He's probably right, though it's a combination of everything. Their argument last night, my feelings of inadequacy, frustration, anger, but mostly, hopelessness. Though I feel much better right now. That's great to hear. Is it because you are focused on the ideas that you are learning? No offense, but it's mostly because the new jeans I got look amazing on me, I say with a laugh. Good, what a few new things can do. But tell me, do you have anywhere else to go? I shake my head. I hadn't thought that far ahead. After all, I'd figured I would be dead by now and real estate wouldn't be exactly a priority. Honestly, I'll probably have to move back in with my parents in Kentucky. They have to take me in, right? God, I feel like such a loser. I begin feeling the weight of failure all over again. Arjun gives me a side glance. You can stop beating yourself up, Lindsay. You may have failed at a few things, but you are not a failure. I rub my forehead, aching from the mental whirlwinds of the afternoon. I wish I could tilt my head to one side and drain all negative thoughts out of my ear. Just like I did with the ocean water. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm trying. Really? It's just so hard. Yes, it is. Change is never easy. But it's going to get better. He pauses to consider something, then continues. I actually have a proposition for you. My company has several apartments in the city we use for traveling consultants. How can this man be so generous and invested in my well-being? I look Arjun dead in the eyes and shake my head vehemently. I can't accept any more from you. You've already given me too much. Lindsay, he says, his voice full of fatherly concern. Maybe that's it. Maybe he sees me as a daughter he wants to help. It's not a gift. You said you're a software engineer. I can certainly use your technology skills on some things over the next few months. And the apartment is temporary. We will need it back for an upcoming project next quarter. You can stay there for the 90 days and work on yourself while also doing some consulting for me in the interim. By the time you leave, you will have rediscovered yourself and will be ready to find your place. If not, then you can go home to your parents. Sound fair to you? I don't know, I'm completely flummoxed is what I am. It was too much to accept. The kitchen is stocked. The apartment is furnished, and there is Wi-Fi and a laptop, so you can keep moving forward with your business. My only other caveat is that if you ever feel despair like this again and are thinking of taking your life, you will call this number. He handed over a piece of paper with the following phone number written on it: National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 1-800-273-8255. My throat aches with unshed tears. This is real. Someone is helping me. Real help. Not just pretty words that sound great in theory. I don't even know what to say. This is not a handout, Arjun says, as though he can feel my uncertainty. This is a help up. Remember, a few decades ago, I accepted money from a homeless person. I was in a similar place as you are now. What I am doing for you is paying his kindness forward while also getting something in return through your expertise. Arjun pulls the car over to the curb and puts it in park. Resting his arm across the steering wheel, he leans toward me. Lindsay, you've had a long day, and we have talked about many things. I have work to finish today. The apartment is over there. He points over my shoulder. And the beach is that way, he says, pointing to his left. It's your choice. Where shall I take you? He's not being difficult nor pressuring me, just asking what I want, life or no life. It's going to be a struggle. I still feel pain every time I think of Charlie and all my failures. At least now I have a friend, and that's something. But is it enough? I swallow the dumpling of emotion clogging my throat and meet his unwavering gaze. Mustering up all my courage and strength, I nod. To the beach, please. Arjun's smile wanes, and he looks stricken. You sure about that? Well, yes. It's no Ferrari, but I can't just leave my custom ride on the beach, can I? He shows me the below QR code on his iPad to his complimentary training. It will help me reinforce what I am learning with him. I use my phone's free QR reader app to scan it. I am ready. 9. Chapter 4. My world is upside down. On time for our planned 7 a.m. meeting a few days later, I rang Arjun's doorbell and wait. His house is gorgeous, one of the most spectacular on the beach, but as welcoming and warm as Arjun himself. I'd found the lovely apartment he'd brought me to a few nights before to be the same. Like a warm, safe hug. Once he'd gotten me all settled in and I'd fawned over the awesome accommodations, he'd left me to my devices. Naturally, the first thing I did was fire up that laptop and Google him. It hadn't taken long to find his name on the list of Forbes' wealthiest people, which listed his net worth. And the number had been jaw-dropping. Arjun is a multi-billionaire. And his humble, giving air only makes me realize how wrong I was. That wealth and bad character go hand in hand. On the other side of the door, feet scuffle along tiles, and Arjun opens it. He stands there, smiling mischievously. Good morning. Come on in, Lindsay. How do you feel today? Oh, I see you are free of seaweed and sand, so things are already looking up. Smiling, I volley back, yes, and I'm still alive, which is the icing on the cake. Even better, I have this amazing coach. He's really a life and game changer. So yeah, things are looking up. He turns, leaving the door open so I can enter his home. All settled into the apartment? I nod, closing the door behind me. Yes, thank you. You are welcome. What was the most exciting thing you've done this week so far? Well, let's see. I got that high fashion modeling job I wanted. I made the cover of Forbes magazine, and hey, I won the lottery. I smile, dropping my purse into the chair by the door. Oh, good, then I can send you an invoice for my services. He smiles, showing his perfect white teeth. That will be $2 million, please. I laugh and then shrug. Nothing too exciting happening yet. Except that I started seeing the world differently. I feel like I have a second chance, although I wish things would move a little bit faster. I follow him into the courtyard where he keeps a variety of potted plants and colorful, mosaic planters. Soon, it will. And you've already done some great things on the project I sent you. My project manager is very impressed with your skills so far. His words fill me with pride as he takes a seat in a chair next to a bamboo plant. Have a seat, Lindsay. Can I get you some water or tea? Oh, no thank you. I'm all set. I sit across from him, enjoying the warmth of the afternoon sun on my face. Then, tell me, what do you remember from our conversation last week? Arjun folds his hands in his lap. I let out a slow, deep breath. Mainly, that I need to find compelling reasons to achieve my goals. Very good. What else? The concept of role modeling, I go on, as simple as it sounds, gave me an aha moment. I am the Sarah Blakely of technology. Good, good. Did you do your assignments? He raises one eyebrow. Yes, I did, I say, my smile wavering a little. You're wondering why I am so adamant about you doing the assignments. He tilts his head and watches me carefully. Is that right, Lindsay? Yes, I admit. I'm a responsible person. I'm not going to mess this up. Of course you're not, but I wanted to check your level of commitment. I'm ready, Arjun. I'm surprised by his more serious tone today. Then again, I know he's pushing my buttons and pushing them hard too. Test me. He smiles, satisfied. I can see that. Now, what did you learn from doing your intelligent actions? More than anything else, I learned the power of momentum, of taking action immediately and generating energy. Finding solid, compelling reasons to achieve my goals helped me redefine what I believed to be possible. Honestly, last night I was starting to feel confident again, you know? Like I used to feel back before. We'll just call it my sand and seaweed-free days. Before, what? His eyes narrow. Nothing. I look up. I don't feel like talking. About that. Before I forgot how strong I was. Arjun's face lights up like the right words have settled on his heart. It makes me feel more relaxed and receptive. Incredible job, Lindsay. Now let me ask you this. Are you feeling happy today? Okay, let's not get carried away there, I say with a chuckle. So, no to happiness. My Ferrari is in the shop today. My grin fades, and I shake my head. No, Arjun. I mean, I've made some progress, but how could I be happy when my life is still so messed up? Lindsay, happiness is not an outcome. It is a state of mind. No matter what happens in your life, you can give yourself permission to be happy. Look at babies. They are happy all the time, except when they are hungry, in physical pain, or when they need their diaper changed. But adults often unlearn how to be happy because we focus too much on material pleasure. We ignore happiness. Let me prove it. You said you had some good things happen this week. What did you feel then? Well, I felt happy for like 2 seconds, but I thought you meant in general. But those 2 seconds were gifts to you, correct? I sigh. You know, Arjun, you're starting to make sense right now, and I'm really not cool with that. I laugh, shaking my head. I did have some pretty awesome moments this week, so why wasn't I thinking about them? And that. He reaches Ferrari. His words simmer about that. Before I forgot how strong I was. Arjun's face lights up like the right words have settled. It may. Okay. I laugh, shaking my head. I did have some pretty awesome moments this week, so why wasn't I thinking about them? And that. He reaches for his tea kettle and pours himself a cup. Is how we selectively ignore happiness. See, the key has nothing to do with the Ferrari. His words simmer in my brain. They simmer so long, my brain turns to soup. What you're saying makes perfect sense, in theory, Arjun. My problem is how can I be happy when there are so many problems? He nods fervently. But happiness does not come from external sources. You should enjoy the world's beauty as much as you can, enjoy all it has to offer, including material things. But true happiness comes from within. I try wrapping my head around his idea, but I still have trouble with it. We need a certain amount of money to be comfortable, because let's face it, I don't live in a hut at the top of a mountain. I live in LA. I'm going to need a few things. He sees that I'm having trouble swallowing this concept. He tries again. Lindsay, if somebody owned a Ferrari, and they think the Ferrari is making them happy, they are totally wrong. It is a feeling of significance, of excitement making them happy. You don't need to own anything for this internal feeling. The moment you focus on the Ferrari as a source of your happiness becomes pleasure. Pleasure has an expiration date. Happiness is eternal. That sounds beautiful. It does. But what if you're homeless? What if your air conditioner is broken and you live in a small apartment? How do you tell someone, just be happy? Isn't that a bit irresponsible and a lot unrealistic? Arjun closes his eyes, a peaceful smile materializing on his face, as though he's been waiting for that question. If you tell yourself that your happiness will come only when you get X, Y, or Z, then no, you'll never be happy. But look at babies. They come into this world with nothing at all, and as long as they are taken care of, they're happy. That is everyone's natural state. Him and these baby comparisons. But the baby still has conditions. I challenge him. He wants to be fed, he wants to be comforted, he wants sleep. Only then is he happy. Have you seen a crying baby, Arjun? It's very unsettling. An adult is no different, except he wants other things besides his bottle and a clean diaper. The Ferrari replaces his bottle, and the mansion replaces the clean diaper. Arjun smiles. And let's continue with that example. For babies or adults, wanting food and comfort are biological. Yes, you must meet those fundamental needs to be comfortable. What I'm saying is, out of peer pressure, the adult chooses the Ferrari to replace the milk bottle. Chooses the mansion to replace the clean diaper and opt out of true happiness. You can have them all. But you can be perfectly happy without them. We are not born wishing we had material things. As we grow up, we learn to be fearful by modeling our parents and our culture. I call it psychological fear. Since we don't know how to process this fear, we associate it with everything we don't have. The cars, the relationship, etc. We manufacture and distribute psychological fears that enslave us into sorrow and keep us from happiness. Arjun wins again, the little bugger. He's right. If I tell myself I'll only be happy when I own a Millennium Falcon, then I'll forever be scouring the galaxy in search of happiness. Better to search a little closer to home. Darn you, Arjun. I mutter. He laughs so hard, he almost falls out of his chair. Lindsay, a few minutes ago, you asked me how could you be happy when your life is messed up. My question to you is, how could you not be happy when your life is messed up? I narrow my eyes at him. Is this a trick question? No, it makes perfect sense. You believe that happiness will come after you succeed, whatever you define as success, right? Nope. It is the other way around. Happiness directs you to success. A great state of mind will lead you there. So, if it's true that your life is totally messed up, you should focus on creating happiness and celebration more than somebody who is already successful. Wow. I never thought about it that way. What if he's right? That would mean I've been approaching my search for success all wrong this whole time. Good, he says. Think about a time you made a huge mistake in your business or life. Right away, my thoughts go to Charlie. Never saw that one coming. What state of mind were you in just before making that decision? He asks, crossing his legs and getting more comfortable. I had just come out of a bad place in my life and thought Charlie would be the one who could fix it for me. I was stressed and in a stupid state of mind. Sitting there, staring at Arjun's potted plants, I'm transported to one afternoon with Charlie. Setting my keys and work briefcase on the kitchen table, I was completely frustrated and exhausted. You wouldn't believe the day I had. There is this client that I've been meeting with for the past 3 months, and today she decided. Charlie? Did you hear what I said? Charlie was glued to the TV. ESPN? Can you just give the basketball game a break for a few minutes? I begged. Scowling, Charlie retorted, "Hun, this is a playoff game." Nuff said. Right? We can talk later. Dropping into a chair, I went numb. Then, I yelled. I accused him of not caring anything to get his attention. He got so mad, he left the living room, yelling, "I come home for peace and to forget work." I try and help you do the same, but every time you complain and I try to fix things, you shoot me down. What am I supposed to do about your problems if you don't want solutions? Lindsay, come back to earth. Arjun brings me to the present. His kind eyes smile softly. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the huge mistake I made. I'd completely lost control of my life and was so stressed I said some terrible things, I say, fighting the swelling sadness behind my eyelids. It's okay. Do you think your stressful state of mind influenced your behavior? Maybe. I think about it in a minute as my mind plays over the situation again. Hesitantly, I nod. I guess so. Is it safe to then say that your state of mind affects your decision-making? If you're in a good state of mind, you're more likely to make a better decision than when you're in a bad state of mind. That seems fair, I say. So, why do you think losing control was a mistake? He asks, pouring himself another cup of tea. Maybe Arjun's happiness is in that tea he's drinking. Maybe I should buy myself the whole case of it. Because I sigh, standing up to pace the courtyard. His questions make me a little antsy, and I have to walk around or go crazy. When I cooled down from that bad experience, I went back to him. My ex, now. And we talked about it. I told him how I felt. He explained that he did care. But he thought the only way he could show it was by either offering solutions to my problems or giving me space. He didn't realize I was looking for understanding, not a solution. I see. That must have been frustrating. Now, tell me, would you have made a different decision had you been in a different state of mind? Probably. I reach out to rub a leaf from one of his hanging ferns. Probably, or yes? He asks. Yes. He stands to stroll around, picking up a watering can to begin watering his plants. A person like him could hire landscapers and housekeepers to do that for him, yet he waters his plants. Wonder if it has to do with his theory that material things don't bring happiness. Maybe watering his plants makes him happy. And have you ever thought of the possibility that if you had altered your state of mind, your result might have changed too? Well, dang. I think I'm gonna need a drink, Arjun. Tea? Vodka. He chuckles. Not good for your clarity, Lindsay, and that is what we are striving for. I was just kidding, I say. Mostly. I know. Now, think of a time when you took a risky decision that turned out pretty well. Let's see. About a week ago, I decided to get in the Ferrari. Which is pretty much the adult equivalent of a child getting into a white van to take candy from a perfect stranger. Some might say that was a risk, but I met you, and my life suddenly changed for the better. I smile across the courtyard at him. He pauses watering his plants to point at me with the watering can. I like the way you think. Thank you, Lindsay. Any others? Before you and I met? Let's see. I think back to my few elusive positive experiences. Despite all the stuff that's happened to me, I still think deciding to be an entrepreneur at the age of 25 was one of the greatest decisions I ever made. I was so sure of myself back then, so convinced I was going to be a force for good in this world. I felt significant, powerful. I was a businesswoman. I started building great connections and networking with ambitious women like me who wanted to change the way women thought about business. Eyes glowing with nostalgia, I relax significantly. Chin up, I can feel the difference in my posture. Arjun grins, watching me. Sounds like you were in a great state of mind then. An amazing state of mind. Do you see a pattern here? He says, setting down the watering can and sliding his hands into his pockets. Your destiny is shaped by the decisions you make. Your decisions are determined by the state of mind you make those decisions with. Your state of mind is decided by the meaning you associate with your daily experiences. So you're saying it's all one, happy cause and effect relationship? Like eating ice cream. Eating it in a good state of mind, it's delicious and satisfying, no guilt. But in a bad state of mind, you end up eating 10 gallons of it and having guilt worthy of a therapist. Precisely. And if you are integrated most of the time, you will make great decisions most of the time. In Eastern tradition, this state of mind has a name. It's called Ananda. Living in Ananda is the second force that shapes all successful professionals and entrepreneurs. Accelerator number 2. Live in Ananda. Ananda. I repeated just the way he says it, with the accent on the first syllable. Ananda. Awesome. What does it mean, exactly? It is a Sanskrit term meaning extreme happiness. Living in Ananda means that you are essentially in one of the highest states of being that you can achieve. I understand, I say, snapping my fingers. It's like when I've just finished eating an entire bag. I've Lindt chocolate truffles. He raises an eyebrow. Sea salt caramel? Is there any other kind? I raise my hand for a high five. An Arjun, older man billionaire, L.A. Gandhi, reaches up and smacks it like a boss. I knew I liked you for a reason, I tell him. He sits down in a lounge chair and puts his feet up as he crosses his arms over his stomach. Anyway, there is a part of your brain called the limbic system, which controls your emotions. Within the limbic system is an almond-sized area called the amygdala that is associated with fear and stress. Let us call it an almond for now. One of the purposes of this almond is to help protect you from future problems through anticipation. Isn't that what we are doing when we are stressed? Are we not predicting what is going to happen next through our emotions and physiology? I take a seat across from him to listen. It's a perfect day, and there could be worse ways to spend it than listening to Arjun talk about parts of the brain. I guess so. Go on, please. He nods. Now, imagine you spotted a stick in front of you, and you thought it was a snake. Your almond alerts your body in a fraction of a second and predicts what needs to be done next. There are 3 commonly accepted responses. You could freeze and be bitten by the snake. You could fight the snake and defeat it, or you could flee the scene. But it is only a stick, so your brain immediately lets every system know there is no harm. This process happens so fast it might not even make logical sense to us until later. Wow, go amygdala, I cheer. Yes, go. Imagine a long time ago, 2 brothers, Joe and Jeff, without an amygdala. They both see a snake while hunting in the woods. The snake approaches Joe, and Joe walks toward it. The snake bites Joe, and he dies. What do you think Jeff will do the next time he sees a snake? Set it on fire. He was the caveman with fire, right? Unless it was his brother who knew how to make the fire, in which case. Lindsay. There's a twinkle of laughter in his eye. Come on. Jeff will run away. Obviously. And why would he do that? Because he can predict what will happen. I ask, unsure of my answer. Remember that Jeff doesn't have an almond to predict danger, though, so he'll walk toward the snake, get bitten, and possibly die. What a great story, Arjun. A real pick-me-upper. I roll my eyes playfully. I know, right? He says without missing a beat. So what did you understand from Joe and Jeff's story? Besides avoiding snakes, that the almond in my brain will help me predict what will happen. But what does this have to do with Ananda? I ask, shielding my eyes from the sun coming up over the edge of his roof into the courtyard. Because whatever emotions you feel alter your current state of mind. What happens to you when you think you see a snake? I am going to feel fearful and not run towards it, most likely. And what is fear? He presses. An emotion. Perfect. So your emotional state changes when you think you see a real snake in front of you, true or false? True? Are you asking, or telling me? I smile. Telling you. Good. So, why are emotions evoked when you see a snake? His hands waver around and around when he talks, and I'm starting to love the sound of his voice. Like hearing an old friend. To alert me of impending danger. Exactly. He nods. Alert is the key word here. Your brain is a prediction machine, too. Your amygdala works together with other parts of your brain to evoke emotions to alert you to take action. Of imminent danger. In business or life, the danger isn't a snake. It can be an angry customer, a disgruntled employee, or even an insensitive spouse. That's all good, I say, scratching my head. But I still don't get how everything you're saying is related to Ananda. Lindsay, he says, sitting up suddenly and leaning forward. Imagine a pond that is perfectly still, something you might see on computer desktop wallpaper. Now imagine someone drop a rock into that pond. What happens? You see a big splash. Let's suppose there's a devastating winter one year, and the pond freezes to protect itself. The winter ends, and the spring comes, but the pond still is afraid of the winter of life. It still has a layer of ice on top. In order to protect you from the winter of life, your mind does the same thing. It freezes so emotions cannot come out. If you drop a rock onto the frozen pond, will there be ripples? No, the rock is going to bounce right off the ice. But the pond is not getting enough of the sun's energy for the plants to thrive. So, the sun pokes a hole in the ice to reach beneath the frozen surface. It allows the sunlight to help nourish the plants. Just like that, your mind cannot exist frozen forever after the winter of life is gone. Or it becomes eternally depressed. So it pokes a hole so emotions can come out. But all the emotions that were suppressed by the frozen ice gap want to rush out of it. Guess what kind of emotions come out first? Negative emotions like anger, guilt, or sadness. Aren't the plants supposed to be happy that it is not dark and that there is a hole with sunlight after all? I ask. Great question. He shifts in his seat, seemingly impressed with my question. That would be completely true if there was no fear. But remember, the pond is still afraid of the catastrophic winter. So it reacts with negative emotions. If a stone falls in that place, the ripples created are bigger because the ice around doesn't allow the rest of the pond to absorb the ripples. That makes sense, I murmured, enthralled with his tale. The problem occurs when the pond reacts more than it should to the dropped stone in that melted area. And the ripples are too large. The result is chaotic ripples in an ice-filled pond. The same way you might be reacting to the spring of life with unproportioned guilt, anger, or sadness, or some other negative emotions. That is how our minds ruin the springs of life, the opportunities of life. The pond by itself is almost never too chaotic. But it thinks it is chaotic because the waves are out of control in one spot. Your emotions work exactly in this same way, Lindsay. When we are out in the field trying to grow our businesses, people might reject you, or worse, be indifferent to you. You might feel lonely that you are in a boys' club and might not feel the confidence to overcome the roadblocks that you face on a daily basis. You might fail miserably. I know that all too well. In our minds, Argent goes on explaining, we might create that layer of ice too. The ice of rigidity or certainty. Like the pond, we freeze our minds, so we do not feel the impact of any rejection or failure. It's a defense mechanism, but remember, if we do not allow ourselves to be open to the rocks of rejection or failure, you won't feel the magic of the flowers, the success, or the fulfillment that might fall into your mind's pond, either. You can't get to Ananda being in this state. So again, it's up to me to change my state of mind. I understand it, but it's so hard to do that sometimes. I pick up a piece of dry plant leaf from the glossy tile floor and start ripping it apart. I understand, Lindsay, but yes, it's up to you. Just like the pond, most of us have the same frozen surface with one small, unfrozen area, which will help us vent our true feelings. The ripples of chaos or uncertainty that we feel through this unfrozen area is the major negative emotion that we experience. I call it prime negative emotion. It is through the eyes of this emotion that we see the world. Some people say, I feel guilty all the time. Other people say, I'm sad all the time. Others think, I'm angry or depressed. We associate our identity to our primary emotion. I used to say, I am angry, as much as I said, I am Arjun. As I've mentioned before, if your primary emotion is negative, like sadness or guilt, that is what your pond will feel. Soon, the pond starts to believe that this is who you are. I take it all in. It's a lot to absorb. I'm not sure I understand everything he's saying, but if only a small fraction finds its way into my brain, then I'm already ahead of the game. Are you following me, Lindsay? I'm trying. Okay, for us to live in Ananda, we must do what I call power ceremony. Power ceremony is the process that manages your prime negative emotion and returns your mind to celebration. a non-reactive state, reducing those ripples of negative emotions until they are transformed to achieve Ananda. Like what? I ask, challenging him. Power ceremony is the process of opening the edges of the holes or vents in your pond's ice. You experiment with different emotions than you're conditioned to feel. Good, bad, positive, negative, as long as it does not hurt others. Just let those vents start to break through the ice. And what happens when the pond is one large hole? It's time to fish, I say, trying to relieve a little of the stress I'm feeling now by not understanding him. The bigger the hole, the less ice there will be on the pond. You got it, he cries. Wow, and here I was thinking that all of this was flying over my head. What if another winter of business failure or relationship rejection comes? Your mind will think, it is too cold. I'm concerned that my master is getting too exhausted. Let me help you to protect yourself by building more ice. It all makes sense to me. What emotion do you feel most of the time in your life? He asks, tilting his head. Not sure. Think about it. For a lot of people, it is guilt. For others, it is sadness or anger. Some people feel overwhelmed all the time. And for some, happiness or joy is their primary positive emotion. Let me see. I ate 10 gallons of ice cream with a Kahlua drizzle. I didn't pull through for my family. My business went belly up. And I have a nagging sense that I did something wrong. I would say I feel guilty all the time. It doesn't have to be that way, Arjun says, leaning forward again. His eyes gaze at mine as his hands fold across his knees. You don't need to feel guilty for anything. But I do. Then, guilt is your prime negative emotion. And unfortunately, this is one of the primary emotions many women see their world through. I used to get really angry when I was younger. Like a lot of men, it was my primary negative emotion.